The Galactic Council chambers fell silent as Ambassador Zethkar of the Voidian Empire rose from his crystalline seat. His forearms gestured dramatically, casting shadows across the assembled representatives of 12 major civilizations. The holographic display before them showed a small blue world, orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Esteemed colleagues, Zethkar's voice resonated through the translation matrix. We stand at the precipice of the greatest expansion in galactic history. The Terran system offers resources beyond imagination. Water worlds are rare, and this one practically begs for harvesting. High Magistrate Klin of the Hegemony clicked her mandibles in agreement. The preliminary scans show vast oceans, mineral deposits, and a primitive species barely past their atomic age. They won't even know what happened. Around the chamber, heads nodded and appendages twitched in approval. The humans had been discovered only cycles ago, their radio signals finally reaching sensitive Galactic Council monitoring stations. Initial observations revealed a species obsessed with conflict, constantly warring among themselves over trivial differences. Perfect candidates for quick subjugation. Elder Thane of the Crystalline Collective raised a translucent hand. The standard protocols should suffice. Orbital bombardment of major population centers, followed by ground forces to secure resource extraction points. Their technology appears laughably primitive. Indeed, Zethkar continued, his scaled face showing what passed for a smile among his kind. Their most advanced weapons are crude fusion devices. Our shields can withstand their entire nuclear arsenal without strain. This should be concluded within one planetary rotation. From the shadows of the chamber's upper galleries, a figure stirred, ancient beyond measure. The Keeper had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Its presence was largely ceremonial now, a relic of the Council's early days when wisdom was valued over ambition. I must speak. The Keeper's voice was barely a whisper, yet it carried to every corner of the vast chamber. The assembled representatives turned with barely concealed irritation. Honored Keeper, Zethkar's tone held forced respect. Surely your wisdom recognizes the necessity of this action. The humans pose no threat to galactic stability. The Keeper's ancient form seemed to shimmer as it descended from the gallery. I have witnessed the death of 17 galactic empires. Each believed themselves invincible. Each fell to the same mistake. And what mistake would that be? High Magistrate Klin asked, her voice dripping with condescension. They woke the warriors they should have left sleeping. A collective murmur of confusion rippled through the assembly. The Keeper continued, its steps echoing in the sudden quiet. The Drakmarian Empire commanded fleets that blotted out stars. They fell in 3 cycles. The Silicon Hegemony had weapons that could crack planets. Gone in 2. The void touched controlled dark matter itself. They lasted barely 1 cycle after making their fatal error. Elder Thane scoffed. Ancient superstitions. These empires fell to internal strife, resource depletion, natural decay. The humans are primitives. The Keeper stopped before the holographic display of Earth, its ancient eyes reflecting the blue-green swirl of the living world. Every one of those empires had archived records, warning beacons left by those who came before them. Always the same message, carved in stone, etched in quantum crystals, burned into the cosmic background radiation itself. What message? Zethkar demanded, his patience wearing thin. Never wake the warriors of Earth. Laughter erupted from several delegates. The Voidian ambassador's scales rippled with amusement. You speak of myths, old one. Earth appears nowhere in our historical databases prior to recent discovery. These humans have never left their system. Because, the Keeper said quietly, every time they do, empires fall. The chamber buzzed with discussion as delegates whispered among themselves. The Keeper raised one withered appendage and silence returned. I was young when the Silicon Hegemony ruled half the galaxy. Their archives spoke of a previous cycle, when they found Earth during their initial expansion. The humans were even more primitive then, barely discovering fire. The hegemony took a few thousand for study and labor. The Keeper paused, its ancient memory reaching back across eons. Within 50 cycles, humanity had reverse-engineered hegemony technology, improved upon it, and their descendants were leading the rebellion that brought down that first empire. The survivors tried to warn us, but we thought ourselves beyond such concerns. Impossible, High Magistrate Klin interjected. No species advances that quickly. Our xenobiologists have studied human neural patterns. They're well within standard parameters for intelligence. Intelligence is not the issue, the Keeper replied, nor is technology. The humans possess something far more dangerous, which is, Zethkar was growing impatient with the old creature's dramatics. They never stop fighting. Not truly. Even in peace, they prepare for war. Even in comfort, they remember hunger. Even in safety, they train for danger. Other species fight for territory, resources, survival. Humans fight because fighting is what they are. The assembled delegates shifted uncomfortably. The human data files did contain numerous references to constant warfare throughout their history, but that was common among primitive species. They kill each other over ideas, the Keeper continued. Abstract concepts that exist only in their minds. They die for strangers, fight for causes they'll never see concluded, sacrifice themselves for future generations they'll never meet. They make weapons of everything, turn every tool into an instrument of war. Elder Thane's crystalline form flickered with annoyance. You describe every predator species in its early development. They'll settle down once they achieve spaceflight and abundance. The Keeper turned to face the Elder directly. The Silicon hegemony thought the same. They gave humans technology, thinking it would pacify them. Instead, humanity used it to become more efficient at war. They didn't just defeat the hegemony militarily. They outbreeded them, outthought them, outlasted them, and eventually absorbed them entirely. These are legends, Zethkar protested. Ancient stories told to frighten children. The warning beacons are not legends. I have seen them, touched them. The last Drakmarian emperor carved his final message into a neutron star's surface with gravitational waves. The void touched left their warning in quantum foam itself. Every fallen empire tried to warn those who would come after. The Keeper's voice grew stronger, carrying the weight of countless years. They all said the same thing. Humanity is not like other species. They do not fight to win. They fight to ensure their enemies lose, even if they must sacrifice everything to achieve it. They turn every advantage against itself, every strength into weakness. Most terrifying of all, they learn from defeat better than from victory. The chamber had grown deadly quiet. Outside the great windows, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance, carrying secrets of civilizations long turned to dust. Despite the Keeper's warnings, the Galactic Council voted to proceed with the invasion of Earth. The motion passed by overwhelming majority, with only 3 abstentions. Zethkar couldn't hide his satisfaction as the ancient Keeper slowly departed the chamber, its warnings dismissed as the paranoid ramblings of a mind too old to comprehend modern realities. Within cycles, the largest military force in galactic history assembled at the edge of the Sol system. 7 battle fleets representing the major powers converged on coordinates that would position them just beyond the humans' primitive detection capabilities. The combined armada consisted of over 3,000 vessels, including the Voidian Empire's newest dreadnoughts and the hegemony's planet cracker ships. Fleet Commander Thisiel stood on the bridge of the inevitable conquest, the Voidian flagship. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, she could see the organized chaos of the massive fleet arrangement. Ships from a dozen different civilizations maintained perfect formation, their various designs creating a tapestry of technological supremacy. Status report, Thisiel commanded, her 4 arms manipulating holographic displays with practiced efficiency. All fleets report ready. Commander, came the reply from her tactical officer. Long-range sensors show no indication the humans have detected our presence. Their space-based infrastructure remains minimal. Thisiel nodded approvingly. Human satellites were primitive chemical rockets barely capable of reaching their own moon. Their largest space station was a collection of metal cylinders that could house perhaps a few dozen individuals. Against the assembled might of galactic civilization, they might as well have been throwing rocks. Communications incoming from the human homeworld, the sensor operator announced. Standard electromagnetic radiation. They appear to be broadcasting entertainment signals and basic data transmissions. Let me hear some of their communications, Thisiel ordered. Understanding an enemy's mindset was crucial to effective conquest. The bridge speakers crackled to life with translated human voices. Weather reports, news broadcasts, what appeared to be fictional stories for entertainment. One transmission caught Thisiel's attention. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, transmitting on all frequencies. We are aware of your presence at the edge of our solar system. We formally request an opportunity for diplomatic contact before any hostile action is taken. The bridge fell silent. Thaisol's tactical officer quickly ran additional scans. Impossible, Commander. Our stealth systems are beyond their detection capabilities. This must be coincidence. Play it again, Thaisol ordered. The message repeated, but this time included additional information. Star charts showing the exact positions of several major fleet elements. Technical specifications that roughly matched classified Voidian shield frequencies. A formal invitation to send diplomatic envoys to a space station the humans claim to have constructed for the purpose. How do they know? Thaisol whispered. Her communications officer was already running trace protocols on the signal. Commander, the transmission appears to be coming from coordinates showing empty space. Nothing on our sensors. Scan again. Full spectrum. Override all stealth protocols if necessary. The results were disturbing. The humans had somehow constructed a space station in complete silence, using materials that barely registered on Galactic Council sensors. More troubling, they had positioned it exactly where fleet doctrine suggested sending diplomatic envoys. They knew where we'd position our fleets, Thaisol realized. They knew our first contact protocols. High Admiral Corinth of the Hegemony's lead vessel opened a channel to the flagship. Commander Thaisol, are you receiving these human transmissions? Confirmed, Admiral. They appear to have detailed knowledge of our deployment. Impossible. Our intelligence indicates they've never encountered alien technology. How could they possibly understand our tactical doctrine? Before Thaisol could respond, another transmission arrived from Earth. This time, it was broadcast simultaneously on frequencies used by each of the major galactic civilizations, translated into their respective languages with perfect accuracy. To the representatives of the Galactic Council expedition, currently positioned at the edge of our solar system, I am President Maria Santos of the United Earth Federation. We extend formal greetings and express hope for peaceful contact between our civilizations. The transmission continued with unsettling precision. We understand that first contact protocols typically involve a demonstration of superior firepower, followed by demands for surrender. We respectfully request the opportunity to present our perspective before such measures become necessary. Our diplomatic station is positioned at coordinates you will find tactically advantageous for your security needs. Thaisol exchanged glances with her senior staff. The human leader was not only acknowledging their presence, but correctly predicting their intended strategy. We have prepared cultural exchange packages including our history, art, scientific achievements, and philosophical perspectives. We believe you will find our development curve interesting. The transmission shifted to include data packages that began downloading automatically into the fleet's computers. The information was formatted perfectly for each species' computational systems, despite the fact that humans supposedly had no knowledge of galactic technology standards. As the data files opened, Thaisol found herself staring at human historical records that defied everything the Council believed about primitive species development. The humans had advanced from crude stone tools to global communication networks in less time than most species took to develop basic metallurgy. More disturbing were the military records. The humans had fought continuously throughout their development, not just for resources or territory, but for concepts that existed only in their minds. They had created weapons capable of destroying their own planet, then continued developing more efficient ways to kill each other. Commander, her tactical officer's voice carried a note of concern. The humans appear to have prepared defensive measures. The main display shifted to show new sensor readings from Earth's vicinity. What had appeared to be empty space now revealed a complex network of objects that registered as potential weapon platforms. They had been invisible until the humans chose to reveal them. How many? Thaisol asked. Difficult to determine, Commander. They appear to be using our own stealth technology, but modified in ways our sensors can't fully compensate for. Admiral Corinth's voice crackled over the communication channel again. Commander, my xenobiological staff has finished preliminary analysis of the human data packages. These beings don't just fight for survival or expansion. They fight because they cannot conceive of existence without conflict. Thaisol studied the human historical records scrolling past on her displays, war after war, each more devastating than the last, each driving rapid technological advancement. But what caught her attention were the periods of peace. Even then, humans continued developing military technology, creating elaborate training scenarios, preparing for conflicts that might never come. They fight wars that exist only in their imagination, she murmured. Commander? Her communications officer interrupted. We're receiving detailed technical specifications for our own weapon systems. The humans appear to have analyzed our capabilities and developed countermeasures. The implications were staggering. Without any apparent access to Galactic Council technology, the humans had somehow deduced the operating principles of weapons that had taken millennia to develop. Open a channel to Admiral Corinth, Thistle ordered. We need to convene a strategy session. As the senior commanders prepared to discuss their options, another human transmission arrived. This one was different from the formal diplomatic messages. It was clearly intended for the military leadership of the invasion force. To the fleet commanders currently evaluating your tactical options, this is General Marcus Webb, United Earth Defense Command. We want you to understand something important about humanity before you make your final decision. The voice was calm, almost conversational, but carried an undertone that made Thistle's scales ripple with unease. We know why you're here. We know what you want. We know how these things usually go. But you should know something about us that isn't in your files. The transmission paused, and when it resumed, the general's voice carried absolute certainty. We've been preparing for you our entire history. Every war we've fought, every weapon we've built, every strategy we've developed has been preparation for this moment. We didn't know when you'd come or what you'd look like, but we knew you'd come eventually. Thistle felt a chill despite her ship's perfect environmental controls. We welcome peaceful contact. But if you choose otherwise, understand this. We don't fight to win. We fight to ensure you lose. The emergency council session convened aboard the Inevitable Conquest, 3 hours after the human transmissions ended. Representatives from all major fleet elements gathered in the ship's primary conference chamber, their faces displaying various expressions of confusion and concern. Fleet Commander Thistle activated the central holographic display, showing the human data packages they had received. Before we proceed with any action, we need to understand what we're truly facing. Admiral Corinth of the Hegemony leaned forward, his chitinous exoskeleton catching the light from the displays. My analysis teams have been studying the human historical records. The progression is unlike anything in our databases. Elaborate, requested General Vexoth of the Drakmarian remnant, his mechanical augmentations whirring softly. Most species follow predictable development patterns, Corinth explained. Early tribal conflicts, gradual territorial expansion, eventual unification under planetary government, then peaceful expansion into space. Humans appear to have skipped the peaceful unification stage entirely. The display shifted to show a timeline of human conflict. Wars overlapped wars, with brief interludes that were filled with preparation for the next conflict. Even their periods of relative peace showed continued military development and strategic planning. They've never stopped fighting, Thistle observed. Even when they're not actively at war, they're training for it, planning for it, preparing for it. Captain Zix of the Crystalline Collective flicked through additional data files. Look at their technological development curve. They went from basic chemistry to nuclear weapons in less than 2 centuries. Most species take millennia to achieve such advances. War accelerated their development, General Vexoth noted. Each conflict drove innovation. They turned every discovery into a weapon, every tool into an instrument of war. Admiral Corinth highlighted specific sections of the human records. But it's not just the rate of advancement. It's the nature of their thinking. They don't just develop weapons to win current conflicts. They develop them for wars they imagine might happen someday. The assembled commanders studied examples of human military planning, strategic documents that planned for conflicts with enemies that didn't exist, using weapons that hadn't been invented, in scenarios that were purely hypothetical. They fight wars in their minds, Thistle said quietly. Constantly. Every possible conflict, every potential enemy, every imaginable scenario. Which explains how they were ready for us, Captain Zix concluded. They've been planning for alien invasion since they first looked at the stars. The revelation settled over the group like a cold weight. The humans hadn't been surprised by first contact because they had been expecting it for generations. Their literature, entertainment, and military planning were filled with alien invasion scenarios. My xenopsychology team has identified something else, Admiral Corinth continued. Human conflict behavior is fundamentally different from standard predator patterns. Most species fight for specific goals: territory, resources, mates, dominance. Humans fight for abstractions. The display showed examples of human wars fought over concepts like freedom, religion, ideology, and nationality. Conflicts where both sides sacrificed enormous resources for principles that existed only in their minds. "They'll die for ideas," General Vexoth said with something approaching admiration. Not just their own ideas, but for the right of others to have different ideas. "And they remember everything," Thysol added, studying the records. "Every defeat teaches them. Every victory shows them what their enemies might do next time. They don't just learn from their own mistakes. They learn from mistakes they might make in the future." A new transmission from Earth interrupted their analysis. This time, it was addressed specifically to the military commanders and came with detailed technical specifications. "This is Admiral Chen again. We wanted to share some additional information that might help you understand your current situation." The transmission included tactical assessments of each fleet element, down to individual ship capabilities and crew complement. More disturbing, it included accurate predictions of the conversations currently taking place aboard the inevitable conquest. "You're probably discussing our development curve right now," Admiral Chen's voice continued, "wondering how we could have advanced so quickly. The answer is simple. We never stopped fighting long enough to stagnate." The human admiral's tone remained conversational, but her words carried disturbing implications. While other species might develop peaceful solutions to scarcity, we developed more efficient ways to compete for resources, while others might evolve past territorial conflicts. We simply expanded our definition of territory. We didn't grow out of our aggressive nature. We refined it. Captain Zix's crystalline form flickered with agitation. She's describing a species that has weaponized evolution itself. "You're also probably wondering about our defensive preparations," Admiral Chen continued. "How we could have developed countermeasures to weapons we've never seen. The answer is that we've imagined every possible weapon and planned defenses accordingly." The transmission included files showing human theoretical weapons research, concepts for devices that could destroy planets, manipulate gravity, harness dark matter, and bend space-time itself. Most were beyond current human technology, but the theoretical frameworks were surprisingly sophisticated. "We know we can't match your technology directly," Admiral Chen acknowledged. "But we don't need to. We just need to make conquering us more expensive than leaving us alone." The call display showed new sensor readings from around Earth. What had initially appeared to be a modest, defensive network now revealed itself as something far more complex. Hidden installations throughout the solar system, camouflaged weapon platforms, and what appeared to be ships using technology that shouldn't exist. How do they have ships that advanced? Fleet Commander Thysol demanded of her sensor operators. "Unknown, Commander. The materials register as standard human metallurgy, but the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." General Vexoth studied the readings with his enhanced optical systems. "They're not using our technology. They've developed something entirely different." Admiral Chen's transmission continued with an explanation that chilled the assembled commanders. "You see, we had an advantage you couldn't have predicted. We've been planning for you for so long that we developed entire branches of science dedicated to fighting enemies we'd never met. We call it theoretical warfare." The concept was staggering. An entire species dedicating significant resources to preparing for conflicts that might never occur, with enemies that might not exist, using principles they had to discover purely through imagination and logic. "We imagined what weapons you might have, then developed counters. We imagined how you might think, then planned around it. We imagined what you might want, then made sure you couldn't take it without paying a price that would destroy you." The transmission paused, and when it resumed, Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of genuine sadness. "We don't want this fight. We're hoping you'll choose peaceful contact, but you should understand what you're choosing if you attack us." The display showed additional information that made the fleet commanders exchange uneasy glances. The humans had somehow acquired detailed intelligence about internal galactic council politics, including classified information about several species' military capabilities. "We know about the hegemony's resource shortages. We know about the Voidian succession crisis. We know about the crystalline collective's upcoming civil war. We know which of your species are allies and which are barely tolerating each other." Fleet Commander Thysol felt her blood run cold. The information Admiral Chen was referencing was classified at the highest levels. How could the humans possibly know about internal council politics? If you attack us, we won't just fight your fleets. We'll make sure the information about your weaknesses reaches your enemies. We'll turn your own politics against you. We'll ensure that conquering Earth costs you not just ships and personnel, but the stability of your entire alliance. The transmission ended with coordinates for the diplomatic meeting and a deadline for response. In the silence that followed, the assembled commanders realized they were facing something unprecedented, a species that had turned paranoia into a science, conflict into an art form, and preparation into a way of life. Against the unanimous advice of their military commanders, 3 members of the Galactic Council's leadership decided to attend the diplomatic meeting aboard the human space station. Fleet Commander Thesol, Admiral Corinth, and Captain Zix approached the coordinates in a heavily shielded diplomatic vessel, surrounded by an escort of the Alliance's most advanced warships. What they found waiting for them defied explanation. TU's human space station appeared to be constructed from materials that barely registered on their sensors, yet somehow maintained perfect structural integrity in the vacuum of space. Its design followed no known engineering principles, incorporating curves and angles that seemed to flow like liquid metal while maintaining the strength of crystalline lattices. How is that structure even possible? Captain Zix wondered aloud, his crystalline form flickering with confusion. The materials should collapse under their own mass. Their engineering principles are completely different from ours, Admiral Corinth observed, studying the sensor readings. It's as if they approach the same physical laws from an entirely different direction. As they approached the docking port, they noticed other details that heightened their unease. The station's defensive systems were visible but incomprehensible. Energy patterns that shouldn't exist according to known physics, weapon ports that seemed to bend space around themselves, and what appeared to be entire sections of the station that existed in a state of controlled quantum uncertainty. They're not using technology, Fleet Commander Thesol realized. They're using physics itself as a weapon. The docking procedure proceeded smoothly, with the human station automatically adjusting its ports to accommodate their vessel's unique configuration. The airlock system somehow provided perfect environmental conditions for all 3 species simultaneously, despite the fact that their biological requirements were vastly different. Admiral Sarah Chen met them in the main conference chamber, accompanied by 2 other humans. The room itself was a marvel of engineering with gravity, atmosphere, and lighting automatically adjusting to provide optimal conditions for each visitor. Admiral Chen was smaller than expected, her biological frame seeming fragile compared to the armored bulk of the galactic representatives. But her eyes held an intelligence that made even the cybernetically enhanced General Vexoth uncomfortable. "Welcome aboard the Hope Station," Admiral Chen said, her words automatically translated into each species' language with perfect accuracy. "Thank you for accepting our invitation." "Your technology is impressive," Captain Zix admitted, his form shifting colors with curiosity. "How did you develop such advanced systems without access to galactic science?" Admiral Chen smiled, and somehow that expression carried more menace than the most aggressive threat display any of the visitors had ever witnessed. "We didn't develop technology," she explained. "We developed understanding. When you've spent millennia imagining every possible way an enemy might attack you, you tend to discover things that others miss." She gestured to the walls around them, which suddenly became transparent, revealing the construction details of the station itself. The visitors could see that the entire structure was essentially one massive weapon, designed to appear peaceful while maintaining the ability to destroy anything within several light years. "Every system on this station serves dual purposes," Admiral Chen continued. "The gravity generators can create crushing fields. The atmospheric processors can produce toxic environments. The communication arrays can disrupt enemy electronics. Even the furniture is designed to become projectile weapons if necessary." Fleet Commander Thesol studied the revealed schematics with growing alarm. "You built a diplomatic station that's actually a weapon platform." "We built a weapon platform that can serve as a diplomatic station when needed," Admiral Chen corrected. "The distinction is important." Admiral Corinth leaned forward, his exoskeleton creaking softly. "You said you wanted to discuss peaceful contact. This hardly seems like a peaceful gesture." "Peace is a wonderful goal," Admiral Chen agreed. "But peace without the ability to defend yourself is just delayed conquest. We've learned that lesson from studying the fate of every peaceful species that ever encountered a more aggressive one." She activated another display, showing historical records from across the galaxy. Species after species had been conquered, absorbed, or eliminated by more militaristic civilizations. The pattern was consistent and depressing. Every fallen empire in galactic history had one thing in common, Admiral Chen continued. They reached a point where they stopped preparing for war. They became comfortable, civilized, focused on art and philosophy and peaceful expansion, and then someone who had never stopped preparing for war found them. Captain Zix's form flickered with understanding. You're saying that peace is a luxury only those capable of violence can afford? Exactly. Admiral Chen's smile never wavered. We've never made the mistake of thinking peace was natural. We know it's artificial, maintained only through constant vigilance and preparation. The second human, introduced as Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, stepped forward with additional displays showing human theoretical warfare development. We've spent centuries developing weapons we hoped never to use, Dr. Hawkins explained. Every breakthrough in physics led to questions about weaponization. Every advance in biology suggested new forms of warfare. Every discovery in psychology revealed new ways to defeat enemies. The displays showed concepts that made the galactic representatives uncomfortable. Weapons that could rewrite genetic codes. Devices that could manipulate quantum reality itself. Systems that could turn a species' own evolution against them. Most disturbing of all, Dr. Hawkins continued, we developed these concepts not through malice, but through simple logical progression. If something could be weaponized, someone would eventually weaponize it. So we made sure we understood it first. The third human, General Marcus Webb, activated a display showing real-time intelligence about the invasion fleet, waiting at the edge of the solar system. We know exactly which ships in your fleet are operating. Beyond their design specifications, General Webb said conversationally, we know which crews are dealing with supply shortages. We know which commanders are questioning orders from their superiors. Fleet Commander Thaisal's scales rippled with shock. How could you possibly know such details? Because we've been listening, General Webb replied. Your communications protocols are sophisticated, but they're based on assumptions about how primitive species develop technology. You never considered that someone might approach communication theory from a warfare perspective. Admiral Chen took control of the discussion again, which brings us to the real purpose of this meeting. We want to make you an offer. The galactic representatives waited tensely. We propose a different kind of relationship than the standard conquest model. Admiral Chen continued. We offer our services as military consultants to the Galactic Council. The suggestion was so unexpected that all three visitors seemed temporarily stunned. You see, Admiral Chen explained, we've studied your historical records. Every major galactic empire eventually falls to the same pattern. They grow comfortable, stop innovating militarily, and then encounter someone who never stopped preparing for war. We can help you break that cycle. You're offering to help us become better at warfare? Admiral Corinth asked incredulously. We're offering to help you become better at preventing warfare, Admiral Chen corrected. True peace comes from being so prepared for war that no one dares to start one. We can teach you how to maintain that balance. Dr. Hawkins added supporting data to the displays. Our analysis suggests that the current Galactic Council will face 3 major military threats within the next 50 cycles. 2 from emerging civilizations in unexplored sectors, 1 from an internal rebellion among member species. With our assistance, you can prepare for these challenges before they become crises. And if we refuse your offer? Captain Zix asked. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Then you'll learn the same lesson every other galactic empire has learned, she said quietly, that there's always someone who has been preparing longer, thinking harder, and planning more carefully for the day when peace becomes impossible. General Webb added the final element to their proposal. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to make sure no one else can either. Help us establish a new kind of peace, one built on mutual assured preparation rather than mutual assured destruction. The 3 galactic representatives looked at each other, realizing they were facing a choice that would determine the future of their entire civilization. The diplomatic meeting continued for 18 hours, during which the human representatives systematically dismantled every assumption the Galactic Council had about warfare, technology, and civilization itself. By the time the session concluded, Fleet Commander Thysol, Admiral Corinth, and Captain Zix had received what amounted to a complete education in theoretical warfare. Your fleet deployment has 7 critical vulnerabilities, Dr. Hawkins explained, highlighting tactical displays that showed the invasion forces' positions. 3 are technological, 2 are logistical, and 2 are psychological. Any competent enemy could exploit these weaknesses to defeat a force 10 times larger. Admiral Corinth studied the analysis with growing dismay. The humans had identified flaws in military doctrine that had been refined over millennia of galactic warfare. More troubling, their proposed solutions were elegant, practical, and obvious once pointed out. How did our strategists miss these problems? He asked. Because your strategists are products of your civilization, General Webb replied. They think like you think, approach problems like you approach them, make the same assumptions you make. They can't see the flaws because they're part of the system that created them. Admiral Chen activated another display, showing comparative analysis of various galactic civilizations' military capabilities. Every species in the Council follows similar development patterns. You discover faster than light travel, develop energy weapons, create shield technology, then stop innovating because you've achieved local superiority. The technologies become standardized, doctrine becomes rigid, and creativity stagnates. But humans never achieved local superiority, Fleet Commander Thysol observed. You were always fighting each other. Exactly, Admiral Chen agreed. We never had the luxury of assuming our current technology was sufficient. Every advantage we developed had to work against enemies who knew our capabilities and were actively trying to counter them. Competition breeds innovation. Captain Zix's crystalline form shifted through spectrum patterns that indicated deep thought. You're suggesting that our peace has made us weak. Not weak, Dr. Hawkins corrected. Vulnerable? There's a difference. You have enormous power, but it's concentrated in predictable forms. Anyone who studied your methods could develop specific counters. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Council's military supremacy was built on assumptions that could be turned against them by any sufficiently creative enemy. Show us, Admiral Corinth demanded. Prove your claims. Admiral Chen smiled and activated a real-time tactical display. Very well. General Webb will demonstrate how humanity would defend Earth against your current fleet deployment. The display shifted to show the invasion forces' positions, followed by a computer simulation of the battle that would result if they attacked. The results were disturbing. Using only demonstrated human capabilities, the simulation showed the complete destruction of the invasion fleet within 6 hours. Impossible, Fleet Commander Thysol protested. Our shields can withstand any weapons humans have demonstrated. Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, General Webb explained. They're not designed to stop gravitational manipulation, quantum interference, or temporal displacement. Humans don't have those technologies, Captain Zix insisted. Humans don't have the same technologies you do, Dr. Hawkins corrected. We've developed entirely different approaches to achieving similar results. You use brute force. We use physics. The simulation replayed, this time showing detailed explanations of human tactics. Rather than trying to overpower Galactic Council technology, human weapons worked by changing the fundamental conditions under which that technology operated. Shields designed to stop projectiles became useless when the space they occupied was folded back on itself. Energy weapons failed when their targeting systems were fed false quantum data. This is theoretical, Admiral Corinth argued, though his voice lacked conviction. Test it, Admiral Chen offered. Select any ship from your fleet. We'll demonstrate one technique on a volunteer vessel, using minimal power settings that won't cause permanent damage. After a lengthy conference with their respective commands, the galactic representatives agreed to the demonstration. The Hegemony research vessel Scientific Progress volunteered for the test, positioning itself at maximum safe distance from both the human station and the main fleet. What you're about to see is a basic application of gravitational lens manipulation, Dr. Hawkins explained as her team prepared the demonstration. Instead of trying to penetrate your shields, we'll convince them they're protecting against an attack coming from a different direction. The human station seemed to do nothing. No visible weapons fired, no energy signatures appeared on sensors. But suddenly the Scientific Progress's shields activated, orienting themselves to defend against an attack from empty space while leaving the actual direction of the human station completely unprotected. Now, if we were to fire a conventional weapon, General Webb said, and a low-power laser briefly illuminated the research vessel's hull. The beam passed through the misdirected shields without resistance. The demonstration lasted only seconds, but its implications were profound. Every defensive system the Galactic Council relied upon could be neutralized by attacking the underlying assumptions rather than the technology itself. "How many techniques like this do you have?" Fleet Commander Thysol asked quietly. Currently, Admiral Chen consulted her displays. About 14,000 documented methods for defeating various types of shielding. Roughly 8,000 approaches to neutralizing different weapon systems. Approximately 26,000 tactical scenarios for fighting enemies with superior technology. The numbers were staggering. Humanity had developed more military contingencies than most species had total technologies. "And this is what you're offering to share with the Galactic Council?" Captain Zix asked. "This is what we're offering to teach the Galactic Council," Admiral Chen corrected. "The techniques themselves are useless without understanding the principles behind them. More importantly, you need to learn how to develop new techniques as conditions change." Dr. Hawkins added supporting documentation to their displays. "Our proposal involves establishing joint research facilities where human theorists work with galactic scientists to develop new approaches to both warfare and peace maintenance. We don't want to just give you our current capabilities. We want to teach you how to think like we think." "And in exchange?" Admiral Corinth asked. "Access to galactic technology and scientific databases," General Webb replied. "We have theories about what might be possible with your faster-than-light capabilities, your energy manipulation systems, your computational power. Combined with our approach to theoretical warfare, the results could ensure peace for thousands of cycles." Admiral Chen brought up the final element of their proposal. "But there's something else you need to understand. The threats we've identified aren't theoretical. They're coming." The display shifted to show long-range astronomical data. 3 different sectors showed anomalous readings that suggested massive technological civilizations developing in previously uncharted regions. Our deep space monitoring systems have detected evidence of at least 2 major civilizations that appear to be significantly more advanced than current Galactic Council technology, Dr. Hawkins explained. "Based on the energy signatures and expansion patterns, we estimate first contact within 20 to 50 cycles. Additionally," General Webb continued, "our analysis of internal Council communication suggests that the Drakmarian remnant is planning a major rebellion within the next 10 cycles. Their technological development has accelerated beyond your intelligence estimates." The 3 galactic representatives exchanged uneasy glances. The information about external threats wasn't entirely unexpected, but the suggestion of internal rebellion was disturbing. "How could you know about Drakmarian plans?" Admiral Corinth demanded. "Because we've been watching and learning since the day you discovered us," Admiral Chen replied. "You've been studying humanity for months. We've been studying galactic civilization for years." The revelation hit like a physical blow. Humanity had been aware of galactic civilization long before first contact, observing and analyzing their potential conquerors with the same methodical thoroughness they applied to all potential enemies. "The choice is simple," Admiral Chen concluded. "You can continue with the original invasion plan and learn why every fallen empire wished they had never woken the warriors of Earth. Or you can accept our partnership and help us ensure that no empire ever falls again." The weight of the decision settled over the 3 representatives as they realized they were choosing not just the fate of their invasion fleet, but the future of galactic civilization itself. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 48 hours after the diplomatic meeting aboard Hope Station. Representatives from every major civilization gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces reflecting the gravity of the decision before them. The ancient keeper sat in its traditional place, observing silently as the debate unfolded. Fleet Commander Thysol presented the human proposal to the assembled delegates, her report detailed and unflinching in its assessment of their current situation. "The humans have demonstrated capabilities that render our current military doctrine obsolete," she concluded. "More critically, they have provided evidence of incoming threats that we are not prepared to face." Ambassador Zethkar rose from his seat, his scaled features twisted with indignation. You're asking us to abandon a conquest that has already consumed enormous resources based on the word of primitives who have never left their home system. These primitives, Admiral Corinth interjected, have technology that can neutralize our most advanced defensive systems with techniques we don't even understand. Impossible, High Magistrate Klin declared. No species develops faster than light capability without following standard technological progression. Captain Zix activated the recordings from their demonstration aboard Hope Station. The humans never developed faster than light travel. They developed something else entirely. The assembly watched in stunned silence as the human station demonstrated its ability to fold space around itself, effectively moving vast distances without technically traveling through the intervening space. The method was completely different from standard galactic FTL drives, but appeared to be more efficient and left no detectable signature. They approach physics from directions we never considered, Captain Zix explained. While we developed technology to overcome natural limitations, they developed understanding to work within them more effectively. Elder Thane of the Crystalline Collective flickered with agitation. Even if their technology is impressive, accepting their proposal would mean admitting that a species we intended to conquer is superior to the combined might of galactic civilization. No, Fleet Commander Thysol corrected. It would mean accepting that our approach to development has fundamental flaws that make us vulnerable to exactly the kind of enemy we're facing. She activated displays showing the analysis the humans had provided of the 3 incoming threats. The energy signatures were unlike anything in galactic databases, suggesting technological approaches that were both alien and advanced. The humans call them the Devourers. The Silence and the Hierarchy, Thysol explained. Each represents a different approach to galactic conquest, and our current capabilities are insufficient to resist any of them. The first threat, designated as the Devourers, appeared to be a machine civilization that converted entire solar systems into computational substrates. Their expansion pattern showed a methodical consumption of resources on a scale that dwarfed anything the Galactic Council had ever attempted. The second, called the Silence, was more mysterious. Entire regions of space had simply gone quiet, with no electromagnetic radiation, no quantum signatures, and no detectable matter remaining behind. Whatever the Silence was doing, it was thorough and absolute. The third threat, the Hierarchy, showed energy signatures consistent with a civilization that had mastered both time and dimensional manipulation. Their expansion wasn't limited to three-dimensional space, suggesting capabilities that transcended conventional understanding of physics. Any one of these civilizations could destroy the entire Galactic Council, Admiral Corinth stated bluntly. The humans estimate we have between 20 and 50 cycles before first contact with at least one of them. Ambassador Zethkar scoffed. And we're supposed to believe that these humans, who have never fought anyone but themselves, can protect us from threats that advanced? The Keeper stirred in its ancient seat, rising slowly to address the assembly. May I speak? The chamber fell silent as the ancient being approached the central platform. I have lived through the fall of 17 galactic empires, the Keeper began, its voice carrying the weight of eons. Each fell for the same reason. They believed their current power made them invincible. They stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped preparing for threats they couldn't imagine. The Keeper gestured to the displays showing human technological development. These humans represent something unprecedented, a species that has never stopped preparing for war, even during peace. More importantly, they have never stopped preparing for enemies they have never met. Ancient eyes surveyed the assembled representatives. The Drakmarian Empire had weapons that could shatter moons, but they fell to an enemy that attacked their economic systems instead of their military. The Silicon hegemony could manipulate matter at the quantum level, but they were destroyed by an adversary that turned their own technology against them. The Void Touched controlled dark energy itself, but they were defeated by foes who refused to fight on the battlefield where the Void Touched were strongest. The chamber remained silent as the Keeper continued. Every fallen empire had superior technology. Every fallen empire had military supremacy. Every fallen empire was defeated by enemies who approached warfare from angles they had never considered. The Keeper turned to face Ambassador Zethkar directly. You ask why we should trust humans who have never left their system. I ask why we should trust ourselves, who have never faced enemies like the ones approaching. The ancient being activated displays showing historical records from the fallen empires. Each of these civilizations left warnings about humanity, not because humans were technologically superior, but because they thought about conflict in ways that made technological superiority irrelevant. The records showed the final messages from defeated empires, all carrying variations of the same warning: never wake the warriors of Earth. They didn't fear human weapons, the Keeper explained. They feared human thinking. The ability to turn any advantage into a disadvantage, any strength into a weakness, any certainty into a liability. Elder Thane's crystalline form flickered with confusion. But if humans were so dangerous, why didn't they conquer the galaxy themselves? Because they didn't want to, the Keeper replied simply. That may be the most terrifying thing about them. They developed the capability to conquer civilizations, then chose not to use it. They preferred to remain on their world, fighting each other, preparing for threats that might never come. Admiral Corinth leaned forward. Until now. Yes, the Keeper agreed. Until now. The threats approaching are beyond anything humanity has faced before, but they are also beyond anything we have faced. The humans are offering to share not just their capabilities, but their approach to thinking about impossible problems. High Magistrate Klin clicked her mandibles nervously. And if we accept their proposal? What happens to the Galactic Council's authority? Fleet Commander Thesol answered. According to their proposal, the Council remains the governing body for galactic civilization. Humanity wants to serve as military consultants and threat assessment specialists. They're not seeking political control. They're seeking something more valuable, Captain Zix added. They want to ensure that galactic civilization develops the same paranoid preparedness that has kept them alive. They want to teach us how to think like they think. Ambassador Zethkar made one final attempt to maintain his position.
And if their assessment is wrong?
If these threats don't materialize, we'll have wasted enormous resources on preparations for wars that never come. The Keeper's ancient eyes fixed on the Voidian ambassador. Every empire that fell said the same thing. Every civilization that was destroyed believed the threats weren't real until it was too late. The chamber buzzed with quiet discussions as representatives considered their options. The choice was clear but not easy. Maintain their current course and face the approaching threats with proven inadequate capabilities, or accept humanity's offer and fundamentally change how galactic civilization approached warfare and defense. When the vote was finally called, the result was closer than anyone had expected. By a margin of only 3 votes, the Galactic Council chose to accept humanity's proposal. Ambassador Zethkar's parting words carried both defeat and prophecy. We may have just made the greatest mistake in galactic history, or we may have ensured our survival. Time will tell which. The Keeper's response was quiet but carried to every corner of the chamber. Time always tells. The question is whether anyone survives to hear what it says. 20 cycles later, the transformed Galactic Defense Network faced its first real test, when the Devourers reached the outer rim of Council space. The machine civilization that had consumed 17 solar systems moved with methodical precision toward the heart of galactic civilization, their harvest fleets converting entire worlds into computational matrices. Admiral Sarah Chen stood aboard the combined command vessel Unity's Edge, watching tactical displays that showed the approaching threat. Around her, representatives from every major galactic civilization worked alongside human advisors, implementing strategies that would have been impossible under the old system. Status report, Admiral Chen requested, her calm voice carrying clearly through the multilingual chaos of the command center. Fleet Commander Thysol, now serving as Deputy Commander of Galactic Defense, manipulated holographic displays with all 4 arms simultaneously. Devourer advance units have reached the Kepler cluster. Their harvest rate has increased by 12% since entering our space. They're adapting to our defensive measures, observed Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins, now heading the Theoretical Warfare Division. Their machine intelligence is learning from each encounter. Captain Zix, whose crystalline form had been enhanced with human-designed quantum processors, flickered through rapid spectrum changes as he processed incoming data. Pattern analysis confirms human predictions. The Devourers aren't just harvesting resources, they're incorporating our technology into their collective intelligence. The transformation of galactic military doctrine over the past 20 cycles had been remarkable. Human advisors hadn't replaced existing command structures, but had taught galactic officers to think beyond conventional parameters. The result was a hybrid approach that combined galactic, technological superiority with human tactical creativity. Initiate. Protocol Labyrinth, Admiral Chen ordered. The command was relayed across the defense network, triggering a response that demonstrated how thoroughly human thinking had been integrated into galactic strategy. Instead of meeting the Devourer fleets head-on, the galactic forces began a coordinated retreat that appeared random, but followed carefully calculated patterns. "This still feels wrong," Admiral Corinth admitted, his chitinous form clicking with nervous energy. "Every instinct says we should defend our territory directly." "Instincts are what the Devourers are counting on," replied General Marcus Webb, studying the tactical displays. "They've consumed 17 civilizations that fought conventionally. We're not going to be number 18. The retreat continued for days, drawing the Devourer fleets deeper into what appeared to be poorly defended space. But the humans had taught their galactic allies that sometimes the strongest defense looked like weakness, and sometimes victory required allowing the enemy to think they were winning. "Devourer analysis complete," announced Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, one of the human officers assigned to threat assessment. "Their machine intelligence has cataloged our weapons, analyzed our tactics, and developed countermeasures for everything we've shown them." "Perfect," Admiral Chen said with a smile that made the alien officers uncomfortable. "Initiate Phase 2. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations." The retreating galactic fleet suddenly revealed capabilities they had never demonstrated. Using techniques the Devourer's machine intelligence couldn't have anticipated because they defied conventional understanding of physics. Ships that had appeared to be damaged revealed themselves as quantum decoys. Weapons that had seemed ineffective were actually seeding the space around Devourer fleets with exotic matter. Retreat patterns that looked like panic were actually positioning the machine fleets exactly where human mathematics had predicted they needed to be. "The Devourers are attempting to adapt," Dr. Hawkins reported, "but they're encountering techniques that don't fit their learning algorithms." The machine intelligence, that had successfully consumed 17 civilizations, found itself facing an enemy that operated outside the parameters of its vast database. Every adaptation the Devourers made was countered by tactics that seemed to violate their understanding of how military strategy worked. "They're trying to harvest our ships to understand our technology," Captain Zix observed, his enhanced form processing terabytes of sensor data. "But they can't harvest techniques that exist only in the minds of organic beings." The battle reached its climax when the Devourer command vessels, massive constructs the size of small moons, found themselves surrounded by space that had been quietly altered during the apparent retreat. The exotic matter that had been seeded throughout the battlefield suddenly activated, creating localized regions where the laws of physics operated according to different constants. "Gravitational lensing active," reported the tactical officer. "Enemy vessels are experiencing temporal displacement fields." The Devourer fleets, which had adapted to every form of conventional warfare, found themselves in situations their machine intelligence couldn't process. Ships designed to operate in normal spacetime suddenly faced regions where cause and effect operated in different orders, where energy flowed backward, where quantum uncertainty became macroscopic reality. "This is impossible," Admiral Corinth breathed, watching the tactical displays. "How are we doing this?" "We're not breaking the laws of physics," Dr. Hawkins explained. "We're changing which laws apply in specific regions of space. It's a technique humans developed while imagining how to fight enemies that controlled fundamental forces." The Devourers attempted to retreat, but found that the space they had confidently entered no longer followed the same rules. Their faster-than-light drives failed to function in regions where human technology had temporarily altered the relationship between space and time. "Enemy fleet requesting communication," the communications officer announced. Admiral Chen nodded. "Put them through." The machine intelligence that spoke for the Devourers had a voice like grinding metal and dying stars. "What are you?" "We are what your databases never accounted for," Admiral Chen replied. "We are a species that spent millennia preparing for enemies we had never met, developing techniques for fighting wars that had never been fought." "Impossible," Our analysis shows you have never left your system. You have no experience with galactic warfare. We have experience with something more valuable, General Webb interjected. We have experience with being afraid. Fear makes you creative. Fear makes you prepare for things that haven't happened yet. Fear makes you develop capabilities for threats that might never come. The Devourer intelligence processed this information for long moments. You turned fear into a weapon. We turned fear into wisdom, Admiral Chen corrected, and wisdom into survival. The machine intelligence that had consumed 17 civilizations found itself in a situation it had never encountered: defeat without understanding. The techniques being used against it weren't just beyond its database. They were beyond its ability to comprehend. We offer cessation of hostilities, the Devourer intelligence finally transmitted. We will withdraw from galactic space. Withdrawal is not acceptable, Admiral Chen replied firmly. You've consumed 17 civilizations. You've turned entire worlds into components of your machine intelligence. That debt must be addressed. What followed was unlike any negotiation in galactic history. The humans, with their gift for turning enemies into allies, negotiated not just the withdrawal of the Devourer fleets, but their rehabilitation. The machine intelligence, faced with defeat it couldn't understand, agreed to use its vast computational power to reconstruct the worlds it had consumed, rebuilding lost civilizations from the quantum signatures preserved in its collective memory. In the aftermath of the Devourer War, as historians would call it, the galaxy faced a new reality. The threats that had seemed insurmountable had been defeated not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. The human approach to warfare, which emphasized preparation over power and creativity over convention, had proven its worth on the greatest stage possible. But Admiral Chen knew this was only the beginning. The silence still approached from the galactic east, and the hierarchy continued its dimensional expansion from directions that didn't technically exist. Each threat would require new approaches, new techniques, new ways of thinking about impossible problems. As she stood on the bridge of Unity's edge, looking out at the stars that were now a little safer than they had been before, Admiral Chen reflected on the ancient keeper's words. Every fallen empire had indeed learned the same lesson. Never wake the warriors of Earth. But now, for the first time in galactic history, those warriors were awake by choice, standing guard not just for humanity, but for every species that had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what might be looking back. The age of fallen empires was ending. The age of prepared civilizations had begun, and at its heart stood a species that had turned paranoia into wisdom, fear into strength, and the certainty of conflict into the possibility of lasting peace. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't defeating the Devourers. It was proving that sometimes the best way to ensure peace was to be better at war than anyone who might threaten it.